Our focus is going to be on hotkeys and mirror mode in terms of presentations, but there are a number of other things that are connected to these two issues, especially mirror mode, that I want to cover with you so that you're clear about how to set that up and some of the issues that can arise when you go into court with a projector and connecting your laptop and so on and so forth. Also, I want to go down to our Q&A section because there were some questions that were asked last time. I didn't have really adequate time to give in-depth answers, so I put a link down here on our Q&A session over on the left to April 26 questions. I want to bring that up here. One of the questions was, can we load depots from other software, and, that already has issue codes in the deposition, and load those into trialdirector so the issue codes transfer over? And the answer is yes, depending on the application that you're using to do your issue coding in those particular situations where you've got prior issue code taken care of. One of those programs that we used at the law firm where I worked for 22 years was Summation, iBlaze, and Enterprise. There are other applications that do the same thing. And so what I did is brought up this video here, how to export productions. Especially this video deals with exporting load files of your data that has already been coded into a format that then you can import into trialdirector. So this is just one example, but my recommendation to you, if you have pre-coded some of the transcripts, is to go into your help in that particular application and look for something like load files, trialdirector, exporting, issue codes, and in your manuals and your help for that application, you're going to come up with a video like this one here that I did for Summation. They'll explain the procedure for you, but trialdirector is pretty ubiquitous in terms of its strength of importing coded data from other applications, whether that coding has to do with documents or with whether it has to do with the synchronized videos or just regular ASCII videos. There are numerous applications out there that you might all be coding in, and the answer to that question is yes, depending on the application. And almost all of the e-discovery applications that have databases where you can code will have the facility to export to trialdirector, which is the primary presentation program used by attorneys and paralegals in court. What happens to if issue codes overlap each other? I dealt with that a little bit last time, but wanted to make sure that I covered it well here. So I did a screenshot in which this particular piece of the transcript is highlighted as having been issue coded, and it's issue coded as property. But it also, if you look at the numbers here, it's for page 415 through 58. It's also showing up under all of these others types of contradictions. This has to do with negligence, preparation, and property. So what I did, I went into trialdirector and I started out by highlighting this as confidential, and it converted the color highlight to this color. But then when I highlighted it with the next option for issue coding, then it took on that color over the top of it all, and so on. So the last issue code I assigned is the color that trialdirector puts on the text. Excuse me when I cough. I've had a cold, and so once in a while I'll do that. But okay, so anyway, what happened here is that the problem when I look at the transcript itself, it does have just the last color, even though it's been coded, excuse me, over here on the left. So what you have to do when you multiple issue code a piece of text is look over in the issue coding in the transcript manager to see where that piece of text may be already issue coded with these other highlights. And when you print out the issue codes, then these different colors will print out on your color printer, or as I demonstrated the last time, when you send it to OneNote, you'll get, you know, these codes showing up in OneNote as well. So that's a way of determining when you have multiple issue codes in trialdirector. Okay, so now what I want to do is come back to our topics today, hotkeys. And on this particular tab, we have the ability to customize the presentation hotkeys in PowerPoint. In PowerPoint, I'm going to go through that procedure, basic procedure for you. Then we're going to deal with presenting with mirror mode when you have dual monitors or a laptop screen and you have the projector. And there's I'll also put a link on here for a mirror mode demo video that you can look at later after I've gone through this. And then also the issues in connecting to a second monitor or a projector and the setup procedure. We'll go over that a little bit. And then if you have a problem with your computer detecting a second monitor or projector, this is a good, I think, tutorial video on what to do in Windows 10, particularly when you have an issue and your computer, your laptop is not detecting the connected, supposedly at least connected, a second monitor. I also had some questions come in, not in with all of you, but in some previous sessions when I've taught this class with regard to iPad, trialdirector for iPad. I really don't recommend this, but there are a lot of folks that like to be able to walk around with the touch tab and use it. And trialdirector has provided a little app that you can use in connection with your cases. So if you click on this video, it'll take you through the tutorial how to, download that app and set it up to connect your case in a wireless manner while you're in court. And then the integration of trialdirector for iPad. This particular video goes through that as well and some of the issues. So I've got these two videos here for those of you who want to do that with your iPad or your tablet. And so these videos will be helpful for that. And after you watch those, if you have questions still, email me and I'll be happy to put a Q&A section there for you. So anyway, we have these two PowerPoints I want to go over first before we get into trialdirector and work with it. So I'm going to bring up the customizing of the, let's see, I'm going to go into, get my right video, PowerPoint up here. Let me just go ahead and re-download that. Bring up this. So anyway, these are in Notepad, the various default hotkeys that are assigned to all of these presentation tools that are available in trialdirector. And you can see there are quite a few different features here. I'm not going to be able to get into all of the hotkeys with those. We'll show you some of those as we go along. But I exported these into Notepad, and then what I would do is I would print this out and keep it handy so that I don't have to memorize all these hotkeys if I want to use them. I really find there are very few hotkeys I use. I like using the mouse on the tools. Don't have to memorize a bunch of hotkeys. And also, when you assign hotkeys in any application, you've got to be careful with your fingers on the keyboard that you don't accidentally touch those. So anyway, this is available when you go into your presentation preferences. So what I'm going to do is bring up this PowerPoint here and go through this with you. Customizing the hotkeys. So, what he's trying to say here is I can't remember if I want to zoom to fit the window, the particular document I have on the screen or the video. How do I zoom to fit it? Do I do Control Shift Alt Z, or do I do Shift Control W, yeah, and so you want to, if you can go by the defaults, or you can just go ahead and do an Alt F and customize that particular feature if that's one you use a lot when you're doing your presentations. So the answer is hotkey customization, and you can make this Control Alt Z. And here's how we go about doing it. In Trial Director, you're going to click on View, and then you're going to come down to Presentation Preferences, not Mode, but Presentation Preferences. And then it will come up with all the assigned hotkeys. You can move the elevator up and down to see all of these. And then the Zoom to Fit window right now is set to Alt F. You could also do the a couple of different alternatives there if you want to. Anyway, these are the defined hotkeys. If you want to send all of these to Notepad, you click on Show in Notepad, and then you could print that out. And so there's a little bit zoomed in area where you can see the different features that are assigned to hotkey and preference mode. And then if you inherit, maybe you're working with Trial Director and someone else has reconfigured the hotkeys in the same case. Since this isn't per user, it is per case and per application really. You maybe want to reset them all to the defaults. If that's what you're used to using, you would click there. And then to print them out, you'd click on Show in Notepad, and they would show up there in Notepad. So now I'm going to go into Trial Director again. Go Alt Tab here and get my Trial Director up. So where that was again is under View, and you come down to your Presentation Preferences, and then you can go down to your hotkeys, and then you could reassign one to be whatever you would like it to be. So like a clear current zone doesn't really have any assigned at all, so you could just go ahead and change that by typing in whatever hotkeys you want at that point using your keyboard. And then Show in Notepad brings them up in your Notepad program on your computer, and then you could go to File and print them out to your printer to have them handy next to you. One of the hotkeys that I do use a lot, and some of you brought this up, and it was in a Q&A session. How do you go from, this is a multi-page document I have up here, and let's say I want to go to the second page of this document. I can use Control P on the keyboard, or Alt P, and whatever keyboard shortcut I've done will bring up the presentation option for typing in a page number. So I'm going to go over to the presentation mode, and then if I do a Control P, you'll notice it brings up an option where I could type in the page number here with that particular feature, and bring that go to the next page in the in that particular document. Go back here to presentation mode. So anyway, that's the way you would work with your hotkey configuration. But again, I kind of like to use these options down here. If I want to draw an arrow, it seems simpler to me, instead of using the hotkey for that, to just click on it and then just go up and draw the arrow on the screen, or draw multiple arrows and so on, and then go back to the default selection tool here instead of doing the hotkeys. But that is something that you need to know about, and some folks really are hotkey oriented, and that is entirely up to you. But that is the way you go about noticing what they are and changing them as well. Now I want to go to another option here, and I'll go ahead and close that PowerPoint down. And I want to talk about presenting using mirror mode in your in trialdirector. So we'll start here. So what is mirror mode? Well, mirror mode means that on your screen you have your case library. You've got what is called the presentation preview window, which will show you, but the jury is not seeing that. What they will see is whatever you decide to present to them, and then they don't see you wiggling around with all the tools. I think Indata calls that, iPro calls that the wizard behind the presentation screen. And a lot of people like to use this, and so I want to show that option to you. Some people feel it's distracting when you are working with the tools to the jury, and you just want the jury to see the exhibit or the transcript and so on that you shove up there in front of them on the screen. The way we go about this in trialdirector is you have an option to click on here called your mirror mode. This is called presentation preview right now, what we're looking at. Presentation preview, not presentation. So we're seeing this, and if you have dual monitors set up, the jury's not seeing this screen at all. They're seeing a black screen until you present whatever is on your screen here by clicking this button to present the preview. So you can annotate whatever you have over here and then send it over to the presentation screen for the jury to see. Just to zoom in a little bit, that's your presentation preview, present preview. So this is your preview down here, and then you click this to send it over to the actual scene that will be seen by the jury itself. So again, you could annotate all these particular, you could have 4 documents up in the different panels that you have available, and then when you get it ready to go, you could click on your present the preview, and then it would show up for the jury. Now here's where you activate the mirror mode, this little icon up here next to the present preview. So you have to have dual monitor capability enabled to use it. And I'll show you how I go about that in a little bit. But this icon will be grayed out if you don't have that set up on your computer and in trialdirector. But that's where you would turn it on, so that whatever you do in the presentation preview mode, then you can present it over to the other screen. So, and this is a little diagram showing you basically what mirror mode looks like. This is what your desktop screen would look like, but when you click present preview, then this is what the jury would be seeing over here, not all of your other tools that you have available, and not you actually marking it up over here with the tools that are down below there. So this is called your workspace and the jury view. And if you put a check mark over here, present preview, it shows up over here. Okay, so anything you do is what it's trying to show you over here is going to show up here when you present that preview. Again, the zoomed in little version of that. So when you want to actually present in mirror mode, you click that, and it will turn mirror mode on for you. And this is just another view of it, where this is what your laptop screen is going to be showing, and then the jury view will be over here, not even seeing the toolbars if you're actually using the mirror mode dual screen option. So they're just going to see this. So if I use these tools and highlight something here, and then tell it to present the preview, it's going to show up over before the jury, like unto this. So I did this over here, it shoves it over in front of the jury in mirror mode. It's flexible to present the preview or mirror mode, and it's called the wizard behind the screen. If you if you want to go with that particular method of using trialdirector. Now here's a checklist if you decide to use mirror mode. The connection between the laptop and the projector is a solid one, that you know that it is connected, and test that out. I'll show you some issues that can come up in a little bit. You set up and you test this connection before you go into court. You try it with your projector before you take that projector into court, and you test it out, make sure everything is working with that particular projector and that particular laptop. The video display card in the laptop, you need to make sure that it is capable of that. We'll take a look at that, and depending on the version of Windows that you're using, if you're using an older version of Windows, which hopefully you're not, but if you are, you might have problems with the mirror mode option with the operating system at that level. So it's best to use at least Windows 7, but Windows 10 would be my preference in terms of using the mirror mode in court. trialdirector 6.8 also includes significant improvements in performances, such as the ability to reset presentation preferences if they get corrupted during your session, and also navigating zoomed in documents in mirror mode. So you can do some navigation in 6.8, which is what I'm using here for you. So that's another improvement. If you have an older version of trialdirector you're using, you might not have this particular ability, these two particular abilities. So now I'm going to come out of there and go back into the trialdirector itself. And so right now you can see that in my trialdirector application, I do have mirror mode enabled, and you can hover over this, and mirror mode it says is on, and you can click it to toggle it off, so that when you toggle it off, the jury is not seeing anything that's on your screen whatsoever, including the preview that you've got going here. And so right now, if I would go over to the presentation mode in trialdirector, you can see that's what they're seeing, just that particular screen with the annotations on it. And then if I would use a tool here, let me use the line tool, and I draw just a line across the screen to emphasize something. And then I would go back to my my view of what the jury is seeing. You see the line automatically appeared there for them. So when I drew that line, they saw it appear instantly without me actually having to do the presentation of it to the jury. So that is one way to make use of the mirror mode. Now, if I turn the mirror mode off and click here, then in order for them to see what I do here, like if I would add a line now and draw a line under something else, now they didn't see that happen. I would have to actually pick present the preview, and then it would show up in front of them. But when I have the mirror mode turned on over here, then whatever I do here, it shows up instantly before the jury. So it depends on, what you feel comfortable with and the method that you want to use when you're using this mirror mode. And now what I'm going to do is come out of trialdirector a moment and go to my camera to show you some things that you need to watch out for when you are actually going to connect up your projector and to your particular laptop, and some issues that can arise. So unfortunately, I have to show you my homely face here, but this particular projector I'm using uses, and I'm going to try to hold that up so you can see it, an HDMI port. It does not have a VGA port at all. So it just has this particular type of socket. So when I want to plug this into my laptop, I plug it in, and then the other end of the cable is going to look just like this, and I have to have a projector that has that kind of port on it. It has to be an HDMI port. Now, what if when I get into court with my laptop and they have provided me with a projector that's built in to the court system? What happens if I don't have the kind of connection I need? The laptop I bring in has HDMI output, but the court projector connection is called VGA. So in other words, the cable that they want me to have looks like this. That's a VGA cable, and you can see obviously these two are not going to fit together. So if the court has this kind of connection and my laptop doesn't, it has this, I got problems. I got to figure out what to do. I want to know this before I go into court. So what I want to do is get in my laptop bag a number of adapters, and one of the adapters I need to take, especially if I don't know what kind of projector or system I'm going to connect to, and my laptop only has this kind of output, then I have to get an adapter. And what I have here is an adapter, not just a cable. So this adapter has HDMI here, and it has the VGA connection on the other. So it's a converter. So this little box here converts the HDMI signal into the VGA signal. And then what I would do is take the cable that's going to go into the court system, and I would just plug that together. So I have the whole system ready to go, and hopefully that won't happen. Now, the reason I say it won't happen is because these connectors do go bad. And so you need to have a backup of one of these. You get into court and you know you have to hook up to your laptop because you want to use dual screens, you want to use a mirror mode, and you know that the court system doesn't have the HDMI connection. You need to go to VGA. And so then you've got the issue of hooking up to their system. Now, what if the opposite's the case? Your laptop has only the VGA connection on it, and it doesn't have an HDMI. Well, then, of course, you need to get the opposite kind of adapter that goes from VGA out of your computer. So then you'll be hooking this cable into your computer, your laptop, and then the other end of it, when you hook that cable in, it's going to have the HDMI on it. And so this is like obviously is a female adapter, and it's going to be the opposite way when you go into court with a cable like this. So anyway, that is one issue that can come up, is making sure that your projector, if you're going to use mirror mode, has got the kind of connection that you need with your laptop. Ideally, you would buy a projector that has HDMI. That's the better kind of signal. It's a newer type of signal, better video, better quality, and the newer laptops all basically have this kind of connection on them, not the older VGA. So that's one thing that can happen. Now, another thing that can happen, let's say you've got one of these wonderful adapters and you go in and you have to use the VGA cable to socket in to that connection. So you connect it up. The other end of it here is in your laptop, and still you don't have a good signal going onto the projector. And then you have, like, maybe it's just showing green. That's the only color it's showing, and you can't get it to show other colors. What's wrong here? Well, it could be that this adapter is not good. That's one problem. But most likely what happened is, if you look inside of these VGA connection cables, you've got little pins. And oftentimes, I can't tell you how many times this has happened, one of these pins gets bent or broken. Maybe it's the one for red or the one for green or whatever. In any case, if you have a problem with the colors on the screen, the first thing to do is look at your pins, make sure they're all straight make sure they're all there. And you'll notice that you have to kind of know what number of pins you have. You got, 5 on the bottom, you got 4 here, notice the spacing. So you kind of have to become familiar with these to know whether if one is bent and you don't have a spare cable that you should have brought with you, a spare connection cable, so you have a backup, because you know what Murphy's School of Law is. Murphy's School of Law, whenever something can go wrong, it will go wrong, and at the worst possible moment. So I always have backup cables. But if you don't, and you have a pair of pliers, you can go in there and maybe straighten out one of those pins. And I've had to do that on one occasion when a paralegal had not brought the extra cables with her, and I had to straighten out a pin with a pair of pliers, carry like a tool like this with me in my tool bag. And of course, when you go into court, you have to put all through the metal detector, so you got to make sure that you don't lose it at that point as well, your whatever tools you have. Anyway, that's a little bit about the problems you can. Oh, one more thing about cables. This little item here is called a ferrite filter, and on most of the VGA cables, you're going to find these. These are filters that help make the signal that goes from the computer to the projector be a very steady one, and so on. Sometimes the iron ferrite that's in these goes bad, and so the whole cable won't work at all. So that's another thing to look at. If you have ferrite filters on your VGA cables, you have to watch out for that. You want to cough in your ear there. Okay, so come back out of that mode for taking a look at it. And now what I want to do is go into the operating system and take a look at the settings. So in the settings, and under display, in Microsoft, this is 10 that I have, you have the options of changing your brightness and so on, your resolutions, and then you can come down and see multiple displays. Now I don't have a second screen hooked up to this particular laptop right now, but if I did, and it wasn't showing up when I went into trialdirector, I couldn't get anything to show up on the second screen that I connected. The problem might be at this level in the operating system. So I would need to come down to where the multiple display option is, and older displays might not always connect automatically. So you have to select detect to try to connect them, and you click here, and then you would see the two, hopefully you'd see the second monitor that you would have there. You might also click on the display adapter properties to take a look at what kind of a card you have in there, and then take a look at list all the modes that you have. And you might have to change maybe the mode of the hertz of the particular adapter to work with your external monitors as well. So those are some places where you might have to get in and futz around a little bit with the display adapters under the control panel. And the way I got there is I went over on my Windows screen, went up to this little icon here under settings, and then you get this option up here, display. Go over here to display options, and then you see your display options coming up over here. So I did want to show you some of those things that can come up for you when you're trying to use your mirror mode as well. And then I'm going to go back to our course website here a moment. Bring it back up. trialdirector down, Alt Tab. And where did it go? Okay. There we go. Whoops. Having a little trouble here with the WebEx session. Let me go ahead and get back. There we go. Okay. So in the when the Windows wants to detect the second monitor, I do have this little video I'm going to play a little bit of this because there's some other issues in here that it does deal with. So I'm going to basically turn off the volume here and just move forward in this video and play pieces of it for you under settings. And again, that's where I was with you before. And now I want to do is show you a couple other things because I don't have the dual monitors on, and he's going to show you here how you might need to use the detect option to go out and find your dual monitors. And I prefer certain types of projectors. I'm going to get to those in a moment and talk about the type of projector that you want to use in court because they are, some of them are easier to use when you're wanting to use multiple displays than others. And then he's going into the device manager because the second monitor wouldn't be detected. And he's going into the device manager and showing you the display adapter that you have. And he's going to work with this a little bit and update the driver. And that can be a problem too. If you have online connections, the driver that you have that enables your video card in the laptop to detect other monitors that are connected, and so you can have dual screens, may not be the latest. And so you might need to go into the device manager and click here and then have it go out and search for online drivers. Windows 10 especially does a pretty good job of looking for the online drivers for the particular hardware that you have installed in your computer. And then it will go out and bring it down and install that for you. And then when you, if it doesn't find it, what they're showing here is you can type in, go to Google, download the drivers from the website that you want to go to. And then once it has downloaded them, then you're going to identify the device that you have after you downloaded it to bring in the right model of that particular device driver and whatever series it would be. So anyway, this little video here will give you, I want to get ahead a little bit to where we can see the dual monitor aspect. Get it here, here we go. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, in this video, it does give you the ability to go in and show you the procedure for updating your video drivers for that problem. Now this one, I don't know if this link was working earlier. I'm going to check to see because in data gives us a tutorial here on mirror mode, but I think it was, this particular was down earlier. Yeah, it's still down, so hopefully that'll come back up from their website later on for you in mirror mode. Now let me go back into trialdirector again and talk a little bit about using mirror mode. So I'm in it right now. I've got it enabled, and you hover over there and you can tell that it is. So when you want to clear the preview, you don't want anybody to see what's showing up in your preview mode. You can click clear it, and then it goes blank. So if I go back over to what the jury's seeing, you see they're seeing nothing. Now I'm going to go back to my trialdirector interface for my screen, my laptop screen, and then I can go ahead and throw something else up there and click here and pick a different exhibit and throw it up on the screen there. This is a pre-treated document that I've already treated, which is what I really recommend when you know you're going to be annotating instead of doing it live. But this is a pre-treated document. And then when I go back over, since I'm in mirror mode and I brought that up on the screen, when I go back over to what the jury is saying, you see it's already there, showing it up for them without my toolbar down below. And this works with all manners of exhibits. So right now I'm in the trial exhibit mode. If I bring up a different folder, remember these are the folders over here where you've drugged down exhibits. Like here's a transcript folder. So if I wanted the transcript folder to be up on the screen, there it is. Now I can come over here and shove this up, you know, on the screen. And then when I pick play here, and I go back, I go back over to see what. So I went back over to see what the dual screen, the second screen, was showing. As soon as I hit play on my other screen back here, as soon as I hit the play button down here below it, it took off. And not only on my screen, and I'll show this to you again in mirror preview. This is mirror preview. I click play here, and then it will start. It will start the screen playing for me as well. So, and then go back to the other. It will just start it right up.
I just told you a minute ago. I don't remember. I don't know. So you don't recall whether you were aware, and you also don't recall what you saw. Is that correct? Right.
So I can, you know, you saw what the jury was seeing, and when I went to the second screen, this is what the jury's seeing, and when I was looking at it, I wanted to pause because I wanted to say a few things to the jury about what was just said. And so the paralegal that's running the show knows this ahead of time. The attorney says pause it when she says thus and thus, and I paused it. And so when the attorney goes to speak, this is the pause. He's speaking about it. And then when the attorney says, okay, continue on, I click play here. And the jury now is seeing this. And I can click pause here. So that's the mirror mode. Now, if you have dual screens and you don't want to use mirror mode, again, you click on this icon to turn it off. And then whatever you bring up here, whatever you annotate, like for example, if I wanted to draw an arrow for some reason, I don't know what this glass. Now the jury isn't seeing anything whatsoever. They're not seeing the depot. They're not seeing this arrow that I just drew. They're not hearing the depot whatsoever. And so now I could go to present that preview, which I'd have to do, and present it over there. And then if I look at what the jury is seeing here, they're going to see the arrow drawn. But I had to click play. So I'm going to go back over to this view here. And so that's the essentials of your using of this mirror mode versus using the present preview option. This mode, whatever you do here, is instantly showing up before the jury. If you don't want that, you click here. This is your presentation preview option here. You're looking at your preview of what you're going to send, and then you click this icon here to send it over so the jury will see it. Now, if you didn't want to use dual monitors at all, you want the jury just to see what you're doing, you're going to click this option. And this option then would automatically bring up on the screen what you're doing for the jury. So you click there, and then in this mode here, they are going to see all of your icons down below, and they'll see you go ahead and pick, you know, a different exhibit and send it up on the screen. And then if you do some annotations, they're going to see you using the annotation tools and doing your annotations in this mode here. So that is basically the way it works with the mirror mode versus a presentation mode. I'm going to come back out of here and go back to my laptop screen here. So now what I want to do is go back to our course website a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and exit from this presentation mode, come back to our course website, because there is something under the Q&A section for today. Well, no, not under Q&A, but yeah, it's under Q&A, but not from last week. I wanted to deal with what kind of a projector, since we're talking about, using projectors in court. What kind of a projector should you get? If you already have one, get to know that projector. Look in the manual, find out what kind of projector is. Is it the kind that you really want to take into court with you? There are projectors that I would not take into court. They work fine in a small conference room or in a very well darkened room, but they're not the kind of projector I would take into court and bring before a jury. And there's some issues here that I wanted to talk about with you here. So here's the information regarding the type of projector that works best with trial director in court presentations. I don't want to go into a lot of exhausting detail, but there's some of this you should know. And there's a link that I'll provide to you if you want to get into more detail. But what I want to do is summarize that LCD, liquid crystal display projectors, are one type. And then the other major type is a DLP, or digital light processing projector. They have two very, very different methods of painting the picture from trial director on the screen. The LCD type projector has what is called a 3 light emitting panels, each of which can be at full brightness or dimmed for darker colors and shadows. It's all controllable in your manual for that particular type of projector. The lumens rating is a true indicator of the power of the projector, the brightness of the projector. So if it says this is a 3000 lumen projector, then that really is how bright that projector should be. And by the way, as I'll say later, I do recommend no less than a 3000 lumen brightness projector. And I recommend the LCD projectors as well. The DLP, on the other hand, that particular type of technology in a projector uses a chip to emit what is called a constant light source. It uses a series of mirrors, one per pixel, and a rotating color wheel through which the light passes, and then it creates the display that way. The downside of this is that in order to display darker colors, less light lumens is displayed on the screen by tilting the mirrors away from the lens. And in other words, a DLP projector lumens rating is based on full on white, and the other colors may be as low as 50% of the rated lumens value of the projector. And then what this means, the bottom line on this, is a flickering effect, which can be visible at times during your presentation due to the rotation of the color wheel in this technology. So which is better? Well, it appears there is more light available on LCD than DLP, meaning the brighter picture, and this is critical. More importantly, also a DLP projector produces a very nasty looking highlighting feature when using trial director or sanction another trial presentation program. It actually appears to be a yellowish green color. Certainly not the yellow that you will see in your monitor. So you want the colors to match your laptop screen, and the DLP projectors is not really a good choice for trial presentation. Now, of course, they are cheaper, and they're cheaper for this reason that I'm mentioning to you. So the projector in court should be a typical 3000 lumen LCD technology type of projector. Now, there's even a better projector, the LCOS type projector, but read below. about those. The L costs are a much more expensive projector, and for the amount of value you get out of them, I don't see them as being for the bang for your buck. I think you're fine with the LCD projectors. And I did put a link up here. You can Google projectors and take a look at all the different projectors. There's buying guides out there. I don't need to tell you about that. But if you already have a projector, the best thing to do is to Google it, find out what whether it's a DLP or an LCD projector, and if you do have the DLP, I sure do recommend not using that one in your trials and when you go into a court. Another aspect that I didn't really talk about here is the kind of screen that you're projecting onto. Years ago, there were screens that were gray, a gray screen, and those increased the contrast of your image greatly. But the modern projectors do not really, especially the LCDs, do not need the gray type of screen. And if you get into court and the screen they're providing is one of these older gray type screens, you're going to find there's way too much contrast in your presentation. So keep an eye on that. Take a look at what's in court if you're going to use their screen, or purchase a white screen instead of using the gray type of screen. I think that should take care of what I wanted to cover with you today with regard to the mirror mode, presentation mode, using your hotkey adjusters. And then if you want to, any of you have iPads that you want to take a look at how to interface it with trialdirector, these are two good videos that are out there. One of them from Indata and the other, or from iPro, and the other's just sort of a generic one from someone that has some experience using iPads and tablets in a presentation mode. Oh, one more thing about the projectors that I want to cover, I didn't put on there, but it will be in this video for you, is I would get a short range projection projector. In other words, one that you can sit within 5 feet of the screen instead of way back in the courtroom. The closer you can put that projector to the screen, the better, for two reasons. One of them is the image will be brighter because you're closer. The other is you're not going to have to walk between the projector and the screen itself and then have a silhouette show up. So you want to get that projector as close to the screen as possible, which means it has to have an aspect ratio that lets you, zoom way out and have a really large image on that, fill the screen with it. And certain projectors allow you to get in real close and yet still fill up the screen with the zoom option. So some of them are what I call dandy long legs projectors, and you can get way back with them, and then they have a zoom lens so you can zoom in real close. But the problem with that, and you're filling the screen, the problem with that is somebody is maybe going to be having to walk in front of the projector and create a silhouette. So I'd be careful about that type of technology too.